She was my friend's mom. And something happened I didn't mean for anything to happen. That's the part one keep going back to. Not because I'm innocent. Just because it started so quietly I almost missed it. It was a Tuesday. I remember that because Tuesdays are when I do my laundry at the 24-hour place near the old pharmacy. Same machine. Same cracked blue chair by the window. I bring a book I don't really read and a coffee that goes cold before I notice. That afternoon, she walked in carrying a woven laundry basket against her hip. I hadn't seen her in years, but I recognized her immediately. "Daniel," she said, like she wasn't sure. Like she was already apologizing if she got it wrong. "Yeah." I stood up too fast. "Mrs. Harper." She laughed at that. Not loudly. Just a small shake of her head. "It's Claire now. You're not 16 anymore." Claire. It felt strange in my mouth. Familiar and not. She looked different. Or maybe I just noticed more. Her hair was shorter than I remembered. A soft brown with a few silver strands near her temples. She wore a loose gray sweater and jeans, nothing dramatic. But she carried herself differently. Less rushed. Less distracted than when we were kids running through her house after school. "How have you been?" she asked, setting her basket down and pushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Good. Yeah. I mean, back in town, so?" "For good. Maybe." She nodded like she understood something I hadn't said. Her son, my old friend, had moved across the country years ago. We don't talk much anymore. A birthday message here and there. Half-typed conversations that never get sent. I still have one of those drafts in my phone. Miss it sometimes. I typed it 3 months ago. Never hit send. Claire fed coins into the machine, her fingers steady. I caught myself watching her hands. Not in a weird way. Just noticing the small things. The way her nails were short. The way she pressed the start button twice, like she didn't trust it. "You still writing?" she asked suddenly. I blinked. "What?" "You used to write in the margins of your textbooks. Little stories." I laughed once. "You remember that. You wrote about a boy who couldn't leave his town." She glanced at me. "He kept missing the bus." I didn't remember telling anyone that. "Guess he finally caught it," I said. "Did he?" She didn't say it accusingly. Just curious. The dryers hummed. Someone's phone rang on the other side of the room. For a second it felt too loud in there. I folded a napkin from my coffee cup even though it didn't need folding. Creased it in half. Then again. "I didn't think you'd remember stuff like that," I said. "I remember more than you think." That stayed with me. We talked about ordinary things after that. The weather turning colder. The bookstore downtown closing. Her job at the clinic. My apartment with the broken heater. Nothing inappropriate. Nothing heavy. But there were pauses. Long ones. The kind where she'd look at me like she was trying to measure the space between who I was and who I'd been. And I'd have to look away first. When her laundry finished, she pulled the clothes out slowly, like she wasn't in a rush to leave. I stood there pretending to scroll through my phone. There were no new notifications. "Daniel," she said as she lifted the basket. "You should come by sometime. I still make that terrible lasagna you boys used to pretend to like." I smiled. "It wasn't terrible." "It was," she said softly. "But you always finished it." There was something in her voice when she said that. Something almost grateful. "Text me," she added, scribbling her number on the back of my receipt. "If you want. If you want." I watched her walk out into the early evening light, the door chiming once behind her. I stood there longer than I needed to. My laundry had been done for 5 minutes. When I finally looked down at the receipt in my hand, I noticed my thumb was resting right over her name. And for the first time in a while, I didn't delete the draft message in my phone. I opened a new one instead. I waited 2 days before texting her. Not because I wasn't thinking about it. I was. Too much, probably. I typed, "Hey, it's Daniel" 3 different times before actually sending it. Then I set my phone face down on the table like it might explode. She replied 10 minutes later. "I was hoping you would." That was all. I told myself it was harmless. She was my friend's mom. Mid-40s. Divorced. Alone in that same house with the blue shutters and the wind chime that never stopped clinking. I was 26. Back in town longer than I planned to be. Lonely in ways I didn't have a clean word for. She invited me over Sunday evening. For lasagna, she wrote. And to prove I've improved. Her house smelled the same. Lemon cleaner and something warm underneath. Maybe memory does that. adds a scent to things. She opened the door wearing a soft green sweater and jeans. Barefoot. You grew into your shoulders, she said, almost to herself. I laughed, unsure what to do with that. We ate at the kitchen table. Real plates. Cloth napkins. She poured tea instead of wine. I don't drink much anymore, she said. Makes the house feel louder. I didn't ask what that meant. We talked about her son. About how far away he felt lately. He calls, she said, folding her napkin carefully. But it's different now. Like I'm a checkpoint he has to pass. I nodded. I knew the feeling. My own mother and I did that same dance. Weekly updates. Nothing real. At one point, I stood to help clear the dishes. Our hands brushed reaching for the same plate. She didn't pull away immediately. Neither did I. It wasn't dramatic. Just skin on skin. Warm. Still. You don't have to, she said softly. I don't mind. Our fingers separated, but slower than necessary. Later, we sat in the living room. The lamp by the couch was the only light on. The rest of the house felt suspended around us. You always seemed older than the other boys, she said. Quieter. Is that good? It's honest. I looked at my hands. Sometimes I think I just didn't know how to be loud. She smiled at that, but there was something sad behind it. I married young, she said suddenly. Thought that's what you do. You pick someone and build around them. She paused. Turns out, sometimes you disappear instead. I didn't know what to say, so I said the truth. I feel like I'm still waiting to start. She looked at me then. Really looked. There it was again. That measuring. That seeing. I imagined, just for a second, what it would mean to close the space between us. To lean forward. To let the silence choose for us. Then I imagined her son's face. The way we used to sit on this same carpet playing video games. The history of it all pressing against my ribs. This is a bad idea, I told myself. But I didn't leave. When it got late, I stood by the door, unsure how to end it. Thank you, I said. For dinner. For finishing it, she replied, a small smile forming. As I reached for the handle, she touched my sleeve. Just lightly. 2 fingers at my wrist, like she was checking for a pulse. Daniel, she said, softer now. It's okay to start, you know. Her hand lingered a second longer than it needed to. I don't know why that moment stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. It changed after that. Not all at once. Just small shifts. She started texting first. Nothing obvious. A photo of the sky outside her kitchen window. A message that said, the heater finally gave up. You still good with tools? A link to an article about a book we'd mentioned. I told myself it was normal. Friendly. Harmless. But I found myself checking my phone before bed. Waking up and looking for her name before my eyes were fully open. One Thursday evening, I went over to fix the heater. She met me at the door with her hair tied back, sleeves pushed up. It's making that sound again, she said. Like it's tired of trying. Maybe it is, I replied. The basement was colder than the rest of the house. The kind of cold that settles into your wrists. She stood close while I crouched in front of the unit, flashlight between my teeth. You don't have to hover, I mumbled. I'm not hovering. She was. Her knee brushed my shoulder when she shifted her weight. Neither of us commented on it. You've gotten quieter, she said after a minute. I was always quiet. Not like this. I tightened something with the wrench. Too hard. I just don't want to assume anything. Assume what? I stood up too quickly and hit my head on a pipe. She reached for me instinctively, palm flat against my chest to steady me. Her hand stayed there. The air changed. We were close enough now that I could see the faint crease between her eyebrows. The silver strands near her temple. The way her breath paused before mine did. This is probably, I started. Complicated, she offered. I gave a half nod. You're my son's friend. Was, I corrected, but it sounded weak. She pulled her hand back slowly, like she was reminding herself how. Upstairs, a car door slammed outside. We both froze. Her phone buzzed in her back pocket. She stepped away to check it. I watched her face shift as she read the screen. It's him, she said. My stomach dropped. She answered. Hi, sweetheart. Her voice changed. Softer. Maternal. A version of her that had nothing to do with me. I turned back to the heater, even though it was already fixed. I could hear only her side of the conversation. Yes, I'm home. No, just getting something repaired. A pause. Daniel. Oh, yes. He stopped by. Silence. My name sounded different coming through that context. Smaller. Exposed. When she hung up, the basement felt tighter. He asked about you, she said carefully. Said he saw your name on my call log last week. I swallowed. What did you say? That you were helping me with something. She hesitated. Which isn't a lie. No, it wasn't. But it wasn't the whole thing either. I should go, I said, wiping my hands on a rag that didn't need wiping. She followed me upstairs. Not touching, not speaking. At the front door, we stood too close again. Daniel, she said, barely above a whisper. What are we doing? I looked at her mouth, then her eyes. I stepped forward without meaning to. Or maybe I did mean to. I'm still not sure. She didn't move away. For a second, just one, we hovered there. Close enough that the decision felt physical, like leaning over the edge of something. Her fingers curled slightly into my jacket. And then, headlights passed across the window. She stepped back first. We didn't talk for 3 days after that. Not because we agreed to stop, just because neither of us knew how to continue. Her texts became shorter. Practical. Heater still working. Found your screwdriver under the sink. I answered the same way. Good. Keep it. On the 4th evening, I saw her walking alone near the park by the river. Same slow pace. Hands tucked into her coat pockets. I almost kept driving. Instead, I parked. Hey. I called, jogging to catch up. She looked surprised. Then careful. Hi. We fell into step beside each other. The river was low this time of year, more rocks than water. The air had that thin, early winter sharpness. I didn't know you came out here, I said. I do when I need to think. That bad? She gave me a sideways look. You tell me. We walked past an empty bench, past a couple arguing quietly near the bridge, past a dog pulling its leash too hard. You've been distant, I said finally. I'm trying to be responsible. That sounds like something you tell yourself when you want something you shouldn't. She stopped walking. I took 2 more steps before realizing and turning back. I am 44, she said evenly. You are 26. I know. You used to sit at my kitchen table and ask for cereal. I also used to be 5'6" and afraid of driving. That's not the point. A jogger passed between us, breaking the space. We both waited for him to clear before speaking again. My son called again, she said. He asked if you've been around much. My jaw tightened. Why does it matter? Because it does. To him. Or to you. She looked away toward the water. To me, she admitted. There it was. Small. Bare. I don't want to hurt him, she said. Or you. You're not hurting me. She gave me a look that said she didn't believe that. We sat on the bench we'd passed earlier. Wood cold beneath us. A few inches of space between our thighs that felt louder than it should. I don't know what you want, she said quietly. I stared at the river. I don't either. That was the truth. Or part of it. I think about you, I added. The words felt heavier than I expected. More than I should. She exhaled slowly. Not surprised. I wait for your messages, she said. And when they don't come, I tell myself that's good. The honesty in her voice did something to me. It wasn't dramatic. It was tired. Careful. You make me feel, she stopped. Like what? She shook her head. That's not fair. Say it. Her fingers twisted together in her lap. A nervous habit I'd never seen before. You make me feel like I didn't disappear, she said finally. After the divorce. After he left. Like I'm still visible. I swallowed. That's not something you're supposed to get from me. Supposed to, I echoed. The wind picked up, lifting a strand of her hair across her face. Without thinking, I reached to move it back. My fingers brushed her cheek. She didn't flinch. The world didn't explode. No one gasped. The river kept moving. Her eyes closed for half a second. Just enough. This is the part where we stop, she whispered. I didn't move my hand. Is it? I asked. She didn't come to the park the next evening. Or the one after that. I told myself that didn't mean anything. People have routines. Lives. Boundaries. Still, I drove by her street once. Slowly. Not stopping. Just enough to see the porch light on. Her car was gone. The text stopped too. Not abruptly. Just thinner. Busy today. Clinic's short-staffed. Talk soon. Talk soon became nothing. A week later, I ran into her at the grocery store. She was in the produce aisle, turning an avocado over in her hands like it required serious evaluation. When she saw me, she smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Hey," I said. "Hi." We stood there between oranges and apples like we'd never sat on that bench. Like my hand had never been on her face. "You've been quiet," I said. "I've been thinking." "About?" She set the avocado back down carefully. "My ex called," she said. "He's coming back into town for a while. Work contract." I tried to keep my expression neutral. "Okay. He wants to have dinner. The three of us. For old times." "Old times?" And I asked. And I said yes. Something in my chest tightened, but I nodded like that was reasonable. Mature. Expected. "That's good," I managed. She studied me for a second, like she was waiting for something else. "Anger. Jealousy. A plea." I gave her none of it. "You deserve stability," she said softly. "Not this." "This what?" "This blur." I almost laughed. "You think I'm looking for stability?" Her lips pressed into a line. "You don't even know what you're looking for," she said. Not cruel, just factual. Maybe she was right. "I don't want to be the reason you stay small," she added. "Stay small." "I didn't ask you to decide that for me," I said. The air shifted. Not loud, just colder. "I need to reset," she said. "At least for now." For him. For me. That hurt more. She reached out like she might touch my arm, then stopped herself halfway. Her hand hovered in the space between us before falling back to her side. "Daniel," she started, but didn't finish. Someone pushed a cart between us. A child asking for cereal. A normal life moving forward. "I should go," she said. "Yeah." She walked away without looking back. I stood there longer than necessary, staring at the avocados like they'd explained something. That night, I typed her name into my phone. "If you're choosing him, just say it." Delete. I'm not a blur. Delete. I miss delete. I imagined knocking on her door, saying something reckless, something that would force the sentence to finish. Instead, I drove past her house again. Her porch light was off this time. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused, like life forgot to finish the sentence. It was raining the night I finally knocked. Not dramatic rain, just steady, the kind that makes everything feel closer than it is. I stood on her porch longer than I should have, watching the water gather at the edge of the steps, listening to the wind chime knock softly against itself. I almost left. Then the door opened. She was already there, like she'd been standing on the other side. "Hi," she said. "Hi." Her hair was down. She looked tired. Not undone. Just honest. "I didn't know if you'd," she started. "I almost didn't," I admitted. She stepped aside to let me in. The house was dim. Only the kitchen light on. A mug on the counter, steam long gone. "You saw him?" I asked. She nodded. And she let out a breath that sounded like it had been sitting in her lungs all week. "It felt familiar," she said. "Comfortable." A pause. And small. I didn't speak. "I kept waiting to feel something come back," she continued. "Some version of myself that existed there." She shook her head. She didn't. The refrigerator hummed. The clock ticked too loud. "I don't want to rewind my life," she said. "Even if that would make everything easier." Easier for who? For everyone. She leaned against the counter, arms folded, not defensive, just holding herself together. "I've been trying to convince myself that what's happening with you is a distraction," she said. "That it's about loneliness, or ego, or needing to feel wanted." "And is it?" She looked at me then. Direct. "No." The word landed softly, heavier than anything else she could have said. I stepped closer, but not enough to touch her. "I don't need you to promise anything," I said. "I don't need this to be forever. I stopped, searching for the right shape of it. I don't want to pretend it isn't real." Her eyes flickered, like something inside her shifted. "You understand what this costs," she said quietly. "My friendship with him." I asked. "Yes." I think that was already fading. "And if he hates you?" I shrugged, though it didn't feel casual. "I've been disliked before. That's not the same as disappointing someone who trusted you." That hit. Because she was right. We stood there in it. The full weight. No fantasy. No sweeping music. Just two people calculating loss. "I won't chase you," I said. "But I won't step back just because it's uncomfortable." Her throat moved as she swallowed. "You make it sound simple." "It's not." She walked toward me then. Slow. Measured. If we do this, she said, stopping inches away, it's not halfway. I won't be your secret. And I won't let you be mine. I don't want to be hidden. She studied my face like she was looking for doubt, for youth, for a reason to retreat. Instead, I let her see the fear, the uncertainty, the fact that I was choosing anyway. I'm scared, she admitted. Me too. That almost made her smile. For a second, neither of us moved. Then her hand lifted. Not dramatic, just steady. She placed it against my chest again, right over my heartbeat. Okay, she said softly. And this time, she didn't pull it away. It didn't explode. No dramatic fallout. No doors slammed. No speeches delivered to living rooms full of shock. It unfolded. Her son found out a month later. Not from gossip. From her. I won't lie to you, she told him over the phone, pacing the kitchen while I stood on the back porch pretending not to listen. The conversation was long. Quiet. There were pauses that made my chest tighten. At one point, her voice cracked, but she didn't raise it. Afterward, she stepped outside. He needs time, she said simply. I nodded. Yeah, that was the cost. We didn't move in together. Didn't rush anything. I kept my small apartment with the broken heater that still made a clicking sound before turning on. She kept her house with the wind chime. But routines shifted. Thursday evenings became ours. Not officially, just naturally. I'd come over after work. She'd already have water boiling. You still take it plain? She'd ask, even though she knew. Yeah. She started drinking black coffee in the mornings again. Said tea felt too careful. Sometimes we walked by the river where we'd sat on that bench, the wood now darker from winter rain. We didn't avoid it anymore. Once, sitting there, she nudged my knee with hers. Remember when you asked if that was the part where we stop? She said. I remember you didn't answer. She smiled slightly. I was hoping you wouldn't either. Her son eventually agreed to meet us. Neutral Cafe. Saturday, 8:47 a.m. I remember the time because I kept checking the clock above the counter. It wasn't warm. It wasn't hostile either. Just awkward. He looked at me like he was recalculating something. Like the math didn't make sense, but he was trying to accept the answer anyway. We didn't pretend history didn't exist. We just let it be complicated. Afterward, Claire squeezed my hand under the table. Not for him. For me. I'm proud of you, she said later, when it was just us. For what? For staying. That word meant more than I expected. Staying. Not chasing. Not hiding. Not pretending it was simpler than it was. Months passed. Seasons shifted. The wind chime kept knocking softly against itself. Some nights, we'd sit at her kitchen table long after dinner was finished. Dishes drying. Clock ticking. She'd reach for my hand without looking. And I'd let her. It wasn't cinematic. There were still doubts sometimes. Still moments where the age difference surfaced in small ways. References I didn't catch. Songs I didn't know. But it didn't feel like a gap anymore. It felt like texture. One evening, as we stood at the sink washing plates, she glanced at me. You know, she said, I used to think disappearing was something that happened all at once. And it's slower than that. A pause. So is coming back. I dried my hands on a towel and leaned against the counter beside her. Good thing we didn't stop, I said. She looked at me, not measuring this time. Not questioning. Just seeing. Good thing, she agreed. Sometimes I think about that first Tuesday in the laundromat. The cold coffee. The folded napkin. The receipt with her name half covered by my thumb. If I had left 5 minutes earlier, maybe none of this would exist. But I didn't. And now, when the house gets quiet at night, and she reaches for my hand in the dark without opening her eyes, I understand something I didn't back then. Starting doesn't always feel loud. Sometimes it feels like someone finally not looking away. Did this story stay with you? What kind of quiet, real love stories do you want to hear next?